I have been busy doing some scrap busting lately, so I just thought I would show you guys what I've made and all the different ways that I was able to use up some of my Christmas paper scraps. Hey guys, it's Beth. Welcome. I have been trying to bust through some of my paper scraps lately. Actually, it was a bigger bag than this. Was able to consolidate it down into a smaller big bag. But it was a huge bag and it was just full of Christmas paper scraps. And yes, there are a lot left, but I have been able to bust through a bunch so far. And I wanted to kind of share with you what I've made just to kind of give you some ideas if you are wanting to get through some of your scraps of any kind. It doesn't have to be just Christmas scraps. But I was working on scrapbooking and thought, you know what, I need to get through some paper scraps. I made some progress on this back in October, I think, whenever I did them again for Smash Our Stash, but I still had a lot left. And so I'm going to continue to work on these, but I've made a lot of progress and I've made a lot of stuff. So like I said, the first thing I wanted to do was challenge myself to make some scrapbook pages. I'm still trying to get through 2017 photos and get them all on a page so I can get them in my album. And so I thought, since I had a ton of Christmas event photos to scrap, I would work through some of the Christmas scraps that I have. So you're going to see a lot of, well, you know, if you follow me, you know I make 3 of most of my pages, one for me, one for each, and then one for each of my daughter's albums. But you're going to see consistency in scraps too. I had a ton of strips left. And these are what's left from cutting our holiday letter, reversible letter sets that we make for our business. I cut out the letters on the silhouette but there's always like strips that are left and they always go into my scrapbook or my scrap bin. And so there are a lot of those. So you're going to see a lot of strips. And what I tried to do though is make sure that I didn't have like the same type of strip layout for the same person like multiple times. So you may see the same layout multiple times, but it's kind of vary between me and both my daughter's albums. So anyway, I'm going to kind of I won't spend a lot of time on these, but these are actually shorter strips that I kind of pieced together behind. So you'll see in a lot of my layouts where I have just one solid long strip going across the back. This one, since they were already smaller, I decided to kind of mix and match so it didn't look like it was the same strip going all the way through. And then this one, I added a strip going across this way. And then as far as embellishments, I was trying to use up some stickers too. So I finally finished off some of these. These were like little file folder type label embellishments. I finished off those. Tried to use up a bunch of these little stickers that I had left on some sticker sheets. So it was kind of two-pronged. This one, I had a bigger scrap of this truck with the wreath and the trees, and so I cut it in half because it wasn't long enough to go across my page. And so I just cut it in half and, separated it out so you could see a good portion of it on either side of my photo block here. And then I had some other strips that I just kind of layer just to bring in some more colors on the page. And then I used a lot of these. There are simple stories, puffy stickers. There was a lot of big words that can't really go on cards. And so I just decided to bring them in as titles. So some of my titles are kind of generic, like Holly and Jolly Joy. This one was our Christmas card from 2017, and I just let the message on my card be my title. Again, trying to work through what I have, not create more scraps, and also work quickly. So it was definitely a challenge, but I've got a lot done. I also brought in some chipboard stickers that I had from Echo Park, just because I don't use those on cards very often. And then this is actually a wood embellishment from Hobby Lobby that I haven't had a chance to play with yet, so I was excited to use those. Here I have strips, just instead of going straight up and down or straight horizontal like I have in some of the layouts that we'll get to in a minute. I just kind of made them a little more haphazard, kind of whimsical. So they're not all even across the top. They kind of go at an angle. And then again, I've got that holiday sticker, the puffy holiday sticker from Simple Stories. And then I also have some Simple Stories chipboard pieces on here as well. So here, again, for a different person, I did these bright colored strips, but they're just, again, just kind of haphazard, going at different angles and different lengths. And then again, with the Simple Stories puffy word title, and then a bunch of little stickers that were left on some sheets. So these are straight up and down. And just brought in a cardstock scrap to back my title on this one, my Simple Stories title here, Echo Park chipboard, and then some random stickers. So on this one, since I had a lot of pictures that I knew were going to cover the majority of the page, I just took some smaller strips that I had, and I think I don't remember if I cut them in half or if I just left them small and used two, but just kind of made them a little grouping on either corner of the, the top and the bottom. Again, using up some more of those little labels that I had. And then this was a sticker, and I don't even know how to describe it. There's dimension to it. It's like it's glitter, but it's not. It's like covered glitter, maybe, like nothing comes off when you rub it, but it feels like glitter, and it's got a little bit of a sparkle to it in person. But this was something I inherited. I don't know where, if I thrifted it or if my mother-in-law thrifted it, but it was an actual sticker, and it was still really sticky, but it said it was from 2003, and I think it came from Hobby Lobby in 2003. So that one wins the award, I think, for the oldest item being used up on my pages today. Again, with the Simple Stories puffy word, this time I just used a strip across the top and the bottom, and then focused, more on the red, and then used a green photo block mat, and then brought in some more of that stripe going different direction to go behind my title and my journaling. This one, I took some shorter strips and just kind of staggered them going horizontal this time, and just have a vertical photo block, which I haven't had yet. Most of mine have either been horizontal or like a square type photo block. Another one of those Simple Stories puffy titles. This was an embellishment from Hobby Lobby, and some more little random stickers. Then this was a paper collection. I don't know who from, but it had like pinks and greens and kind of a vintagey feel. K & Company. No, We Are Memory Keepers. Sorry, it was We Are Memory Keepers. I do remember seeing a strip at some point when I was working through these scraps. And so I had a bunch of these scraps left in different sizes, some bigger chunks, a lot of title or a lot of strips because it had a border strip page. And then I also had some other random scraps from a different collection in a different maker, but in similar colors. So I did try and bring those in just to use those up. And then because I was scrapbooking about a gingerbread house, I also had a couple random scraps of this print from Hobby Lobby, which had, gingerbread houses, gingerbread men, candy canes, things like that. So I did, and the colors were similar enough that I think it all kind of worked together. So here I just used one of the strips I had left for a title. Does it necessarily work for a gingerbread house? No, but it's a Christmas thing we do most every year, and so kind of welcoming in the Christmas holiday, I guess, throughout the month. I wasn't really overly concerned about specific titles. Like I said, I was just trying to get the photos on the page, get the scraps used up, and just get things documented. So I also found some stickers in an Echo Park sticker book, I think, that had some pink, and so I brought some of those in just to use up some of the smaller ones as well. Very similar layout this time, though. It's a different strip at the top with my title. That was just another one of the border strip pieces on that page. But the rest of the layout was fairly similar. So now this one is different because I think I did this one first and was just trying to use up as many of the strips as I could. So I created an entire background page with paper strips. This crosses two different makers and collections. It's the We Are Memory Keepers, and then this red came from something else. I'm not sure who, but I do have words up here and at the bottom, but this is kind of like, since it's bigger letters, to me that acts as the title. Or, you know, usually when you look at a document or a graphic, you have a title and then you have subtext. So that's kind of how I took this one. And then I had some bigger chunks too, and so I just kind of brought those in here onto my photo mat. This was a random piece of ephemera that was in with these. It matched one of the other collections I had, like this scalloped strip right here and this, I think, were from the same collection, whatever that was. But so these, you totally used up these collections. I have been holding on to those strips for a long time because I really loved the colors and I loved the vintageness of it, but I just hadn't found a way to do it. So done. I think I have 11 layouts using Christmas scraps. So got a lot of strips used up that way. So then I decided to go to cards. I also had a bunch of card mats that were already cut. One of the other times this year when I was going through my Christmas scraps, I cut down anything that could be made into a card mat. I went ahead and cut that down so that it would be easy to like start putting some cards together. I made this one last, and I did it after I had done one of the scrapbook pages because this just used up some of the pieces and parts that were left. And then I did bring in an Echo Park collection ephemera piece that I found because the colors, like that minty green, kind of ties in with the green, light green stripe and the leaves on the papers. And there are scraps on the inside of all these cards, scraps of some kind. I just, again, wasn't concerned about total design. This is a sketch that I have memorized, and so I just did a bunch of them kind of in that way. And this was actually a piece of a greeting card that I had liked the pattern on at some point, so I kept. So I used up paper, but I also used up just a bunch of random things that were in my Christmas embellishment bags and, you know, in with my scraps. This one used up a bunch of strips, and then this was a part of a greeting card that I had harvested. Here I used some bigger pieces. At one point too, I had gone through some of the smaller scraps in my Christmas paper and did some die cutting and punching. So I brought in tree, like this deer was die cut. And then this is actually left over for craft shows. We do like wooden trees. My husband cuts them down and stains them, but then I cover one side with some paper just to give it some color and design. And so this was kind of like the negative left from one of the trees that I had cut out. Just brought in some randomness. I had a couple of these pieces of the ho, ho, ho on, it was like blue and kind of like a faded red, almost to pink. So I just said it was pink and added it with these patterns. Again, a bunch of strips, and then this was a sentiment that had been in my stash for a while. This was something I had fussy cut out of a Christmas card a long time ago. This was a piece of a Christmas card I had saved. So finally, after years and years, and I know it's been years because there was a picture of a kid on the back of this piece here who is grown now, and he was very young on that picture. So finally, I am getting some things used up. So those were 5.5 by 4.25, your standard A2 size card. I also made some smaller 3.5 by 5 note cards because if you've followed me too, you've heard me talk about the fact that I thrifted or came across a really good deal on some envelopes that fit this size card and need to use them up. So these are great when I'm handwriting messages to Cards for Soldiers and I don't necessarily have to worry about the size of the card and maybe a smaller envelope getting lost in the mail. I am trying to do all of the cards for soldiers that I handwrite in 3.5 by 5. So I've got a bunch of these, and I went through, and anything that hadn't been big enough to cut into an A2 size card mat became a 3.5 by 5 inch card mat. Some of them are smaller maybe than 3.5 by 5, but they work. Again, used a bunch of stuff, random embellishments that I had kind of in a Christmas bag, like a bag of random Christmas embellishments. I don't think I stamped any sentiments. These were all sentiments that I had in my stash. Normally I try to do extra when I do stamp or print sentiments. And I have some vinyl sentiments as well. This was from my die cutting fun a while back. So nothing earth-shattering, but I got scraps used up, I got embellishments used up, and cards made. So my goal is to work on writing in these throughout the year so that I'm not scrambling to get them done come fall when Cards for Soldiers needs them to get them shipped off in time for Christmas. So got a bunch of these cards as well. And then I did do some other kind of one-off projects. I had several pieces, several squares of this kind of beigey, vintagey music sheet paper. And at one point I must have planned on cutting them into stars. And I do remember a long, long time ago making some of like folded star ornaments. So that must have been what I had cut these for, but just never did them. And so I turned them into little pockets. And it's a double pocket, and I used another scrap strip just to kind of separate the two patterns. I can always add something later if I want, but I figured this was kind of neutral enough to go with whatever, if I do a vintage December daily type journal. Actually, this could go in any vintage type journal. It doesn't have to be Christmas. There's nothing Christmassy on here. So, but I did make 2 of those, and so there are 2 pockets. And then I just decided there was one random piece left, and so I went ahead and cut it into the star that was already traced on there. I can use those for journals. I did 2 hot cocoa pockets. These were envelopes that I cut in half and then just decorated up. And I just added a sentiment. And then to use some of the smaller scraps that I generated, I made a bunch of Christmas tags. I tend to sell these fairly cheaply at our craft shows. Like I'll do a dozen in a little bag with a little topper for pretty cheap. And so I don't spend a whole lot of time with them because I'm not going to get a lot out of them. But when you think about how people use a gift tag at Christmas time, like it just gets it to the right person, and then it all ends up, going into the trash or recycling bin anyway. But it's still a good way to use up scraps. I needed some tags to finish off some of my gifts. And then some of these, I thought too that I could just stick in my tag stash for next Christmas. But I have one here that's just a little folded card. Used up a bunch of little scraps on. This was a fussy cut ornament out of some glittery paper and just layered up some other papers on it. I was also trying to use up some of the scrap cardstock I had that was in with my Christmas scraps. So this one was just random stars. So if it was like colored cardstock, I did try and add white on the back. Used up a little reindeer that I had already stamped and die cut out. This was a die cut from scraps. This was vinyl, scrap vinyl. So just a bunch of bits and pieces that are now in useful form. So I have a bunch of these with the trees because I had a bunch of trees. And then this one, I had a couple of these tiny little stickers left, and I was like, wasn't sure what I was going to use them on. And there were some phone booths on the sticker sheet. They were little tiny phone booths, which I ended up tossing because I don't know why I would use a phone booth. But I did use a little skating scene just on there. So that is my scrap busting for the month of December. Like I said, I'm going to keep at it. So if I do anything earth-shattering the rest of this month, I will try and pop back in and share it with you. But for now, I feel really good about where I am, what I got done, all the pages that I was able to get scrapped. And then it's a much more manageable stash of scraps that hopefully keep manageable throughout this year and not let it get so out of control. It is December 23rd, so this will probably be the last time you see me before Christmas. So I do want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas, happy holiday season. I hope everyone is able to, who celebrates Christmas, is able to spend some time with your family. Thank you so much for another wonderful year, for sharing your comments and your tips and ideas in your projects. I love this community. I love all of you. And I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and a very crafty day.